I took a drive late one night. What happened will haunt me for the rest of my life. Oh, before I forget, man, I was wondering if you could help me with something. The cashier, an acne-riddled kid who looked to be in his late teens or early 20s, looking up from shoving the bag of potato chips, 2 sodas, and pack of Lucky Stripes into a plastic bag. For a moment, he just stood there, seemingly frozen in action. Then he finally answered, "Yeah, what's up, man?" I let out a brief anticipation sigh. I'd been half afraid that I would be told off, take a long walk off a short pier to be polite. Feeling relieved, I reached into my back pocket for what was there. You see, I seem to have, sort of gotten lost out here. I decided to take a late night drive and ended up getting turned around on 2 of these lanes backward. I unfolded the map and set it on the counter so he and I could both see it before continuing. So I was hoping you could point out on here roughly where we are, and more importantly, the way to get back onto the main road. There was another stretch of silence, and the kid began to laugh softly and at first, then louder. Do you have a paper map? He managed to get out between the wheezes. Are you real? What year do you think this is, 1993? For my part, I simply let out a resigned sigh. I had a bad feeling I would be getting this sort of reaction from someone his age, and it looked like I'd been correct. Can't say I didn't see this coming. He wiped tears from his eyes of the corner and looked at me. Seriously, bro? Don't you have a GPS in your car or something? He said. I hooked a thumb over my shoulder and pointing out to the glass entry door at the binge seal sitting at the gas pump. Not in a Honda Accord from 1979, I replied simply. As he looked behind me out the door, I could see him wanting to make another queal, probably something about how I should buy a newer car or something. Thankfully, he kept it to himself. Instead, he leaned over the map and still chuckled softly to himself, began looking at it, and a few minutes later, he snapped his fingers. Ha! I still got it, he said proudly, then pushing his finger down near the middle of the map and looked up at me. We're right about here. Roughly 6 or 7 miles outside Placer? I leaned over the counter to see as he drew his finger away. Here? He nodded, and I pulled a pen out of my pocket circling the area as a reminder once I left, then exclaimed the map farther. Okay, so it seems like I could take more than a few roads to get into the Interstate 5, right? The kid nodded again, clearly already bored with me, the usual reaction by the slightly annoyance look which had begun to cross his face. Sure, he said simply, then placed my baggage items on top of the map. There'll be $14.50 for this and $28.50 for the gas. I reached into my back pocket and pulled out my wallet, withdrew 3 20s, and handed them to him. The cashier let out a trademark ding as it shot open. He placed the bills in it before pulling out and handed me my change. Placing it in my wallet back into my pocket, I picked up the bag and folded the map back up. Thanks for the help, I said as I turned to head to the door. Yeah, no problem. I heard him mumble at me as I crossed to the front door and pushed it open. A small bell, dong, from the inside handle jangling as I stepped outside and let the door swing shut behind me. The sound of the refrigerators humbling and the fluorescent lights softly buzzing was replaced by those of summertime forest at night. Crickets and cowslips buzzing loudly in the grass around the store, almost overwhelming the buzzing sound of the lights over the pumps. The sound of an owl hooting loudly echoed through the tree, followed by the loud call of what had to be an elk. I inhaled the clean air before heading down to the steps of my car and pulling open the driver's door, and I took one last look around before dropping into the driver's seat. "So, did you find out where we are?" asked a voice from the passenger seat. For a split second, a wave of confusion and panic swept over me, and I spun into my seat. I was immediately replaced by a wave of embarrassment, amplified as my friend began to let out a deep laugh. "Dude, were you in there that long that you forgot I was out here waiting for you?" Not wanting to admit I had done just that, I shook my head. "Nah, bruh. Not that. Just dealing with the kid in there was a major headache." He nodded sympathetically. Crenjan was one of our closest friends. Ever since we'd met each other, we'd immediately clicked and had stuck with each other from that point on. And one thing that we both loved to do was take night drives, very late, to nowhere really. Simply driving around with no destination in mind, listening to the radio and occasionally sharing a joint, one of us, which we would buy. This was the first time we'd ever gotten lost, though.